Haha! I bought a car and we're gonna have a little chat about it. This is a Proton. Now, that says Proton Saga. I never knew these as a Proton Saga. Everyone's getting excited about these Hot Wheels cars, the Protons. I only ever knew those cars as a Proton 1.5 GLS. I'll tell you why. My grandpa bought one with his retirement fund. So my grandpa worked for many years as an Ansell's sales rep. If you don't know what Ansell's were, it's a brewery. They will have been bought out by someone or other in the big conglomerate brewery thing. But back in the old days, my grandpa used to sell beer, and he used to sell beer like in central Birmingham back in the days before it was total crap. And he used to deal with there's a guy doing like epic tricks on one of them one-wheel Segway things, and I can't decide if it's really cool or really weird, because he's doing like yoga whilst riding along on his own, wearing a woolly hat, and it's 20, how many degrees? 27 degrees still. Jeff, you're rambling. Right, my grandpa used to sell beer for Ansell's, and he used to sell to all the nightclubs and pubs like in Digbeth and Birmingham, back when those places were still respectable and weren't the third world shitholes that they have since become. And my grandpa got a reputation for being trustworthy because he was a good dude, and he used to sell beer to like one of the biggest gangsters in Birmingham. I don't really know the full details of this story, but what I'm told is he used to hang out and sell beer to like some of the dodgiest people in Birmingham, and apparently one of these like top ranking gangster dodgy dudes once said about my grandpa that he was the only person that he would trust to go across Birmingham with £1 million cash in a bag and make it to the other side and have it all still be there. Now, quite how my grandpa would have ended up in a position where he was walking across Birmingham with £1 million cash, but he probably was. Anyway, the Proton. Towards the end of my grandpa's career, he got his final company car, and his last company car was a Rover. It was I think it was either a 416 or a 420 saloon, and it was red and it was lovely. But that was his final company car, and he was never destined to keep it. And he obviously got a payout when he finished work. Well, I know he got a payout because they bought him a TV with a video player, which at the time was like epic. No one had video players. So my nan used to record Top Gear for me. That's partly why I'm into cars. You know, my nan used to record it on a Thursday night because it was after my bedtime. Original Top Gear with Quentin Wilson back before he was a shill. And I'd go round at the weekend and watch it. You know, I must have been, well, however old I was, single digits. And the one I distinctly remember was when the Jaguar XJ220 came out, and there was a piece on the Jaguar XJ220, and it was a big deal. Like, Nanny has recorded this for you, and I couldn't wait to get around and watch it. The XJ220 has always been one of my favourite cars. And then after that, my dad had a company car as well, and he had a fuel card, and he was collecting Shell points every time he filled up, and eventually we had enough Shell points for a 1/18 scale Jaguar XJ220 from Shell, and that was like the best day ever when I got this Jaguar. Absolutely epic. You don't get that anymore at fuel stations, do you? It's because they're not trying to curate an interesting cars anymore like they used to. Anyway, Jeff, you're still rambling. Right, back onto the story about my grandpa. So my grandpa's last company car was this Rover 416 saloon, bright red, and it was at the time that my grandparents had realised that they didn't really want to be in the Midlands anymore, and they had a load of friends that had moved to a little fishing village in Cornwall, you know, 4.5 hours from our house, and this is back in the days before the A30 was built. So my grandparents, bearing in mind there was about 1,000 grandchildren and all manner of children, came back one day and just announced that they were moving 4.5 hours away, sold the house and buggered off. That's basically what happened. But that was when they retired. So the company car, the Rover, went back to the company. Grandpa retired, they sold up, but he needed to buy himself a car to see him out. So he bought what would then become his last car, his final ever car, having had company cars for however many years. And Proton had probably just launched in this country. It was a K-Reg, so it was 1992, and it was this beautiful turquoise colour. It was a 1.5 GLS, and looking back now, it was probably absolutely base spec. And so, like my dad and my uncles, this was like laughing stock sort of stuff. He'd gone from this lovely Rover, you know, peak company car, high spec Rover 420 in gleaming red, and suddenly he's gone and brought a Proton, and everyone's like, what the heck is a Proton? Anyway, I remember going down to Cornwall with my grandpa and my nan, and probably a cousin or a younger brother. I think it was my sister, my older sister, and we went all the way to Cornwall with them, 4.5 hours, probably more, because Grandpa used to drive everywhere at about 37 miles an hour. So it probably took us about a week to get to Cornwall in this Proton. And what all of my family members will tell you, if they can remember about Grandpa's car, is you were not allowed to touch the windows. Do not put your window down. Do not touch that window. That was like Grandpa's rule. You were never allowed to put the windows down in Grandpa's car. But I distinctly remember the grab handles, the interior grab handles to open the door. It's like, you know, with the Volvo 850, it's got a very distinctive door handle. You pull it backwards on the 850s and the 940s and the 740s. It's like a characteristic of the car. Well, the Proton was much the same. It had a little hook thing, and you could hook your fingers through it, and you could pull the door open with that. And of course, in the back, the windows were wind up windows, which you were never allowed to touch. So I would imagine my grandpa then eventually, sadly, he fell ill and died far too young. He wasn't that many years retired, and I think it was prostate cancer. I was quite young at this point, that eventually wiped him out. And I do remember one last time of us all walking along the beach playing football, and I'm glad we've got those memories, but at the same time I do feel like we were kind of robbed by losing him so early. And then after that, then my nan rapidly went downhill after that as well. That was dementia. So, you know, prostate cancer and dementia. Thankfully, when nan died, she was happy as Larry, because she didn't have a clue what was going on. And maybe that was a self-defense mechanism, because she missed her husband who had this Proton. Anyway, that's why I've just gone and bought a Proton Hot Wheels car, because that is my attachment to the Proton 1.5 GLS. After the funeral, I think my uncle ended up with the Proton, and I don't know what has happened to it since. I would imagine that it has long since been scrapped. But I just remember that it was quite a rare car even then, and you never see them pop up for sale. They all disappeared. If not in the scrappage scheme, then they will have all rusted away, because they were never that desirable. But that is a nice little evening anecdote on a Proton 1.5 GLS and some stories about my grandpa. Yeah, a lot of that going around, isn't there? A lot of people dying far too young. Crikey! And if you overtake like that again, then you're going to die far too young. It was always the Range Rovers that have to drive like utter knobs. You would have found my grandpa really annoying, because you would have been sat behind him at 37 miles an hour all the way down past Bodmin Moor and Jamaica Inn and all that stuff, and he would have been holding up the tractors. I remember it, and it was hot, and we were not allowed to touch the windows. Oh, which channel am I going to put this on? It's kind of like evening Jeff buys cars sort of stuff, isn't it? Is this an evening Jeff buys cars video? I reckon it is. Why are you filming this, Jeff? Oh, I've just been to the shop to pick up some materials for an epic sandwich, because tomorrow it's going to be another beautiful day, and in Britain, when the weather's beautiful, you have to make the most of it. So I'm going to go down to the Wave in Bristol tomorrow. I'm going to do all my work and all my editing from there, and I'm going to get myself a little surf on the Wave at the same time, because that's where we've been tonight, and it was superb. And the problem is with surfing, it's probably the most addictive sport in the world. When you've had a good surf, there is nothing that you won't do to go and get another good surf. it doesn't matter. I'm going to go home and sell everything and book a flight to somewhere that's got good surf, because right now the only thing that matters is standing on water. And yes, I finally lost it. Thanks for listening to this little evening chat. Let me know if you like this video, sort of podcast style soliloquy. Is it a soliloquy? I think it is a soliloquy, isn't it? When you just, well, all of YouTube is kind of a soliloquy, isn't it? Yeah, that's my sandwiches rolling around in the back. Brilliant. That is the end of the video. Don't touch the windows.